Welcome back to the Fight Society podcast. I'm your host, Damon Martin. I want to say a big thank you to everyone tuning in this week. And obviously a big thank you to everyone that gave the great reaction to last week's show as we got the band back together, myself, Matt Brown, and Jeremy Loper. We will be doing more of those shows in the future as time permits. Obviously, Matt's got his fight booked for UFC 207, and obviously travel and schedules that kind of prevented us from doing the show as often before, are still in place, so we're going to do the show as often as we can. But this week I'm rolling solo, and I'm going to be welcoming in two great guests. We're going to be talking to former UFC middleweight champion Chris Weidman is going to join us to talk to us about his fight with Yoel Romero, as well as middleweight champion Michael Bisping. He's got some interesting things to say about the champ. We're also going to talk to UFC Fight Night main eventer Tony Ferguson, who takes on Rafael dos Anjos this Saturday night on Fox Sports 1. Very much looking forward to that one. That's a hell of a good fight. Main event Saturday night. So we're going to talk to him as well. But the big news of the day, Ronda Rousey made her first public appearance since her fight with Amanda Nunes was announced. She appeared on The Ellen Show on Tuesday and dropped a bit of a bombshell. Not necessarily a surprise, but a bit of a bombshell.
Not that long. I'm wrapping it up. This is definitely one of my last fights. So.
One of your last fights?
Yeah, everyone better watch.
Yeah.
The show is going to be around forever.
Well,
there you go, Ronda Rousey hinting at her retirement. I don't think this should come as a big surprise to anybody. I think I may have mentioned it on the show maybe a month or two ago that I had heard rumors that, she was, going to come back, but it was for a very limited time basis. The rumor I had heard back in August when the talk about her fight at UFC 207 first started, and then I heard towards the end of September that she had actually been offered the fight with Amanda Nunes, was Ronda kind of had a plan, so to speak, as far as her career goes. And that was wrapping up her career in, about 3 to 4 more fights is what I'd heard. I had heard that she wanted to come back and fight for the title. That was number one, most paramount thing to her, was coming back and winning the belt. And obviously right now the champion is Amanda Nunes. Now, assuming she wins, which that's not an assumption because that's not an easy fight and she could absolutely lose that one. If she gets past Amanda Nunes and if she regains the title, then the rumor I heard was that she wanted to, avenge her loss to Holly Holm, which makes sense. That's the one loss on her record, and I think she wants the chance to avenge that loss. Obviously, the Holly Holm fight would kind of make sense right now in a way, but also it doesn't have as much hype because Holly's coming off 2 losses. So I guess the hope in Ronda's mind is that Holly will kind of correct course, come back, get a win in 2017, and they can renew their rivalry and hopefully fight again at some point next year. And then the third fight that I heard about for the longest time was the fight with Chris Cyborg, which I know Chris Cyborg has been banging the drum an awful lot lately. Today on Twitter, she started bringing out political email or like political tweets tagging Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton, which I don't know. To me, it's like disastrous playing that kind of game because when you listen, I make no bones about it with my political view as far as where I lean. I'm a liberal. I have no shame in that, but I tend to avoid talking politics too much. I mean, we've talked about it on the show before with Matt just because I like to get him riled up because he gets so crazy about politics. But I tend to avoid the subject because it's like talking about religion. You just piss people off and you're eventually going to, kind of separate yourself from an audience. Listen, everyone's entitled to their opinion. If you're a Hillary supporter, you're a Trump supporter, I don't begrudge you your opinion. If you want to talk to me about it intelligently, I'll do that. But I don't expect to change your opinion based on my opinion on an MMA podcast. So I wouldn't dare to do that. And when fighters, listen, I don't want to begrudge fighters having an opinion, but yeah, Cyborg tagging up saying, Ronda Rousey avoids her name like Hillary Clinton avoids talking about emails or something. It was just like, to me, it's just like, why go there? Avoid that. There's 1,000 different ways you can go about this without turning political. A lot of the best trash talkers in history can do that. You don't have to go that route. And I understand it's a popular subject because the election is a week away, but I kind of just cringe watching that. I'm just like, oh, why? Like, I just don't get it. I understand she wants to fight. And from my understanding is, and I know that everyone's going to kind of crap on this idea because Ronda has, clearly not shown a lot of enthusiasm about fighting Cyborg in the past, but I had heard from a pretty reliable source that she did want to fight Cyborg, and that was kind of, maybe even the last fight of her career kind of an idea, next year. I don't know if it'll happen now. I don't know if that's even something she's thinking about now versus 2 months ago. That absolutely could have changed. But I know it was something she was definitely contemplating or something that I had heard from a pretty reliable source that was going to happen or, something she was thinking about happening. So again, whether or not it will, I don't know. But I think that does sound like a pretty good game plan for Ronda to fight the fight with Amanda, go after Holly, and then maybe close things out with Chris Cyborg. So maybe Chris Cyborg will get her wish without tweeting at Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton for whatever reason. But yeah, I mean, Ronda's coming back. I mean, listen, you can't take a lot away from that interview with Ellen. I mean, it was a very, when I say staged, I don't mean it like, she had the questions ahead of time or anything, but when you're on a show like that, when you're on Ellen or you're on the Tonight Show or you're interviewed with, Jimmy Kimmel, one of those things, they're there to be funny and entertaining. It's not a hard-hitting interview, and you're not going to get a lot out of those interviews. They're 5-6 minutes long. I mean, they were talking about knitting clubs and stuff, and that's cool. I got no problem with that, but I'm just saying you're not going to get a lot of information out of that. We did get the retirement talk, which was big. I don't think in the entire 6-minute interview did they even mention Amanda Nunes' name, sadly. I think they said she was going for the title, but I don't remember them even mentioning Amanda's name. But again, like I said, that's the kind of interview that it was. I mean, obviously, as Ronda's fight gets closer after UFC 205 closes, the attention is going to shift to Ronda. I mean, she's fighting December 30th, last card of the year. She's coming back from a year away. She's going to be doing more media, whether that means, more shows like Ellen or doing shows, perhaps, I don't know, like, doing the Tonight Show or something like that. I don't know. Maybe she wants to avoid that. She talked about that very specifically in the interview that, the build-up, the lead-up to the fight, the anticipation of the fight is really what gets her. That's kind of what drives her nuts. And I get it. Listen, Connor's talked about this. When you're the biggest stars in the sport, everyone wants you. Everyone wants a piece of you. Everyone wants an interview with you. Everyone wants your time. And I understand it can get a little annoying, when you're basically, being pulled in 50 different directions, as far as, training and getting ready and all you want to do is focus on the fight and everyone else wants to pull you in a different direction. I get it. I mean, I'm not oblivious to that. I understand that. But unfortunately, because you are such a star, because she is Ronda Rousey and because he is Conor McGregor, people do want you and they want to hear what you have to say and they want to hear what you have to say about your fight in the future and ask you about hypothetical matchups. And then listen, that's just the nature of the business of media. And that's, like I said, that's just something you have to deal with. But, as far as Ronda's career goes, I mean, listen, I don't think anyone really believed that she was going to be around that much longer anyways. I mean, if she had beaten Holly Holm, let's just say hypothetically she had done that, do I think she would have taken this entire year off? Probably not. But then who knows? Because a lot of the things that went away for her in this last year since she's been gone may not have gone away. I mean, don't forget all these movie projects she had. She had a movie project with Mark Wahlberg. She had the Roadhouse remake. There was another movie project that was being developed for her. Now, these things could still happen in the future, but a lot of this, at least the two movies, the Mark Wahlberg movie and the Roadhouse remake, were supposed to shoot earlier this year in like April and May or May and June, around that time. And that was part of the reason why she didn't fight at UFC 200. And that was part of the reason why she was taken off this year. Neither of those things happened. And you can't sit here and deny and say that there's not a chance that her loss didn't affect that her star power didn't diminish a little bit with that the attraction of putting Ronda Rousey in those particular situations, with potentially limited acting ability, no offense, didn't dampen Hollywood's spirits of doing it. Now, maybe if she comes out and she destroys Amanda Nunes in one round, all those things come back, and then she can start talking about that 2 to 3 fight plan to leave, because after that, then she'll have all the time in the world if she can leave on a winning streak, leave with the title, leave with her legacy intact. But these are all questions we won't find the answer out to until December 30th. I mean, listen, Ronda sounded, fine. I mean, I don't really know what you want me to say about her, body language or anything. She didn't seem out of sorts, but again, it wasn't like, Ellen was going to ask her about, have you recovered from the Holly Holm fight? What do you think about Amanda Nunes? What are your answer to, fighters like Chris Cyborg calling you out? What are your answer to fighters like Juliana Pena, saying things about you? All these fighters saying things about you since you've been gone. All these different things that, could have been asked, weren't asked. And I get it. It's not that kind of show, but that's the reaction we're waiting for. That's the reaction we want to see. How does Ronda answer those questions? How does she react to those situations? And we won't know that until she starts doing those media, rounds, whether it's, doing shows like, whether she appears on Fox Sports 1 or she does, a media conference call, or maybe we have to wait till the end of December when we get there with, the open workouts and a press conference. I don't know. I mean, like I said, these are all questions we really don't know the answer to and won't know the answer to until she starts talking more and answers those questions. I'm not going to presume to know anything. Ronda is a competitor. I know she's a fierce competitor. I know she wants to get back in there and win. I highly doubt she would have returned for this moment if she really did believe that she wanted to go back out there and kind of, correct course of what went wrong the last time. Unfortunately, Holly Holm would have been the perfect matchup for her because I am sure that she wanted to exact revenge against the person who beat her while winning back the title. But obviously, that's not able to happen now, so that she's focusing on Amanda Nunes instead. But I don't know. We'll see. I mean, like I said, there's a lot of unanswered questions about Ronda, and we'll hopefully find that out more in these next, this next 6 weeks leading up to the fight. I don't know the answer to that right now. If you're, today's conversation about her saying that, she doesn't have that many fights left. Listen, she's kind of said that and hinted that before. This isn't the first time she said it. But how that will all unfold, in the days and weeks leading into the fight, I guess we'll just kind of have to wait and see. But what we do know for sure is that Ronda Rousey is not long for this sport. If she survives past 2017, I would be shocked. I would say it's more likely that by the end of 2017, Ronda Rousey will be retired and out of the UFC and out of the sport entirely. But like I said, we'll wait and see how that all plays out. A lot of it's going to be told after December 30th. If she loses to Amanda Nunes, I think there's a great chance she doesn't fight again. All right, with that said, let's talk to our first guest. He's a former middleweight champion. He takes on Yoel Romero at UFC 205. Chris Weidman's going to join us right now to talk about that fight, how he got the deal done to fight at UFC 205, because this all came together literally within hours of that press conference where he appeared opposite his opponent and on that stage with Conor and Eddie and everybody else. So we'll hear about that. We'll hear about his thoughts on middleweight champion Michael Bisping's recent comments, and of course talk about Yoel Romero. So here is the former champ, Chris Weidman. Chris, what's up, buddy? It's Damon.
Hey, what's up, buddy? How you doing?
I'm good, man. How's everything with you?
Everything's good, man. How are you?
I appreciate you taking the time to chat with me, man. Obviously, fight's just around the corner. I just looked at the calendar. I was like, man, this is less than a month away now.
Yes, it is, man. It's catching up quick.
Last
That was never going to come, and now it's here.
I know. Last time we talked, it wasn't a done deal. Obviously, things kind of came together at the 25th hour. So kind of walk me through the, I don't know, how nervous, how worried, how was your mindset going into that? Because I know the fight wasn't booked. It wasn't done until like right before the press conference.
Yeah, it was definitely a stressful period of time because you kind of left up in limbo. You don't know what's really going to happen. And I did obviously want to fight at Madison Square Garden. So it was a stressful time period, but, got through it, met with Dana, and then ended up flying out to Lorenzo the day before the press conference. And, the day of the press conference is when we pretty much, got the deal done. We got the deal done. And that was it. It was definitely a crazy little stressful period of time, though.
Yeah. I know Dana had said in an interview, I want to say it was last week on Fox, he actually said something about, Lorenzo had made some promises. I'm not trying to get too deep into your contract, but would you say you were satisfied with the result?
Yeah, I'm happy. I'm good. We came to terms, took a nice flight out to Vegas, got to hang out with Lorenzo for a little bit, and we made it work.
Yeah. Is it weird now? I mean, because Lorenzo technically, now he's not technically part of the UFC, but was it good to still be able to deal with him on something on this?
Yeah, it was cool. I mean, it was weird at first because I'm like, from Dana, what do you tell the guy? He's not with the UFC anymore. Why do you want me to go out to Vegas? But he made it made sense to talk to him about it, and went out there and got it done.
Yeah.
It was definitely a little weird, though.
Yeah. So you get the fight with Yoel Romero. This is the fight everyone's been rumored with for a while. I don't know. I'm kind of curious. Yoel has been, I'm sure you've seen on social media, he's been pounding the desk now all of a sudden that he's talking about drug testing. I don't know. Is this one of those things where it's, you kind of get the sense of like, if you've been guilty before, you're trying to get out in front of it before you're guilty again? You know what I mean? Like, because everyone's obviously been on his case about testing positive, and now, he's out there saying, hey, I hope Chris Weidman's being tested.
Yeah, I just actually seen that. Yeah, I don't know what he is. He's, the guy failed the drug test, and if you're getting drug tested more because you failed the drug test, you shouldn't be complaining. You're lucky that you only got 6 months, and you should just keep your mouth shut and get drug tested, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that, anybody that's gone through that, it's like, you have that asterisk next to your name forever. Fair or unfair, I mean, that's just the nature of the business. When you get popped for something like that, no one's ever going to look at you exactly the same again.
Exactly. I agree. Yeah. Once you fail a drug test, man, you will be questioned. Your whole career will be questioned. people will always assume that you take it for your whole career, and they should. I mean, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. They can assume that. So, yeah, and that's the position the guy created for himself.
Yeah. Yeah, so are you happy to see that he is? I mean, he has been drug tested. I guess I heard that he was drug tested one night and they came right back the next day, and so it seems like they're on him pretty hard.
Yeah, I mean, he should be getting drug tested a lot. I still, I think you fail a drug test, you should be drug tested at least like once a week. So the more he's getting drug tested, the better. I just hope he doesn't fail. It's like one of those things you want him to be crap. If he is taking stuff, you want him to at least crap himself and be worried about it. But you don't want him to fail at the same time. It's kind of like a weird thing because I do want to fight him. Yeah, but no, he deserves to be getting tested as much as possible. And same thing with me. I mean, I've never failed a drug test, and but anytime that they come, I love when they switch up the times because that makes me think that they're switching up for these other guys who could be cycling off and on, and so it's a good thing.
Yeah. So if we take the drug testing part out of it and just look at Yoel Romero as an athlete, I mean, obviously he has been, pretty impressive in the UFC. I mean, he knocked out Lyoto Machida, which is very impressive. Obviously beat Tim Kennedy. We know the circumstances surrounding Stoolgate and everything else with that. But I'm just kind of curious, like, what do you expect out of Yoel Romero? Because he's been a pretty exciting, pretty explosive guy, but it's not without a little bit of controversy in his past as well.
Yeah, no, I mean, I see everything everybody else sees. He's an explosive wrestler. He has good takedowns, obviously, but he's dangerous on his feet with his hands. He's very explosive and kind of unorthodox in his fighting. So, I expect him to come after me. He definitely he has a lot of muscle on him. So he doesn't last. I think you see him slow down a lot in his fights. So the goal is to just pressure him, make him as tired as possible, make him explode as many times as they could get him to explode, and just shut every one of those explosions down, and then eventually just have my way in the fight.
Yeah. Is it a little bit, I know they're completely different stylistically, but is it a little bit like the Vitor Belfort fight? Because Vitor is known as a dramatically fast starter, and he came out of the gates quick against you, but then once he didn't get that initial knockdown or get the initial flurry, it seemed like, he wasted himself on those early punches, and you took him down and dominated him. I mean, obviously they're different fighters, but is it a little bit of that with Yoel Romero too?
Definitely, but similar, they're very different fighters, but there's a similarity with that. I haven't seen Yoel just kind of like almost give up the way I've seen Vitor do in some fights. But I've seen Yoel, he gets tired and he hesitates on his explosions because he knows he's going to get tired if it doesn't work out for him. So the key is to make him question himself in there.
Yeah. You've obviously been a part of a lot of big fights during your career, Chris. I mean, the first Anderson Silva fight, the second Anderson Silva fight, obviously you were going to get the rematch with Luke Rockhold back in June, but now you're fighting Yoel Romero, potentially number one contenders fight, and you're doing it in New York at the first ever card in Madison Square Garden. Where does this fight, before it happens, where does this rank in terms of importance for you, not only coming back from the last fight, but also fighting at MSG, knowing what a win over Yoel Romero does for you? I mean, how big is this for you?
I mean, this is the biggest fight of my life, but I kind of say every fight feels like that. Every fight is so important. But this one is definitely special and important, being the first fight ever in Madison Square Garden. And, I go out there, I do my thing, I get back into fighting for the title, and getting the belt. So this is huge, Yeah, I mean, it ranks really high up there with all my big fights.
Yeah, you did that press conference a couple weeks ago in New York. Did you feel bad Yoel Romero got no questions? I was kind of like, man, I feel kind of bad this guy showed up for nothing here. He didn't actually get asked any questions.
Yeah, actually, I really didn't even. I wasn't even focused on that at the time. I was just enjoying the energy in New York. Just an awesome experience being there and seeing it go down for the first time and seeing everybody's excitement, So I was just enjoying it. And then, then I was told afterwards, I'm like, yeah, you're right. Actually, it wasn't. And, that. Yeah, I don't know. It's like the language thing, and there's a lot of big-time guys up there. You had Conor McGregor obviously stealing the show. So there's probably a lot of guys who didn't get as many questions as they'd want. It's only, an hour press conference, so it's only so many questions that could be asked.
Yeah. It was funny because it was pretty much Connor, you, and like a couple other guys got questions, and obviously that was, I'm glad you got a lot of questions because obviously you were one of the people fighting the hardest to get this event to happen in the first place.
Yes, thank God they asked me something.
Now your focus is Joel Romero, but I can't do this interview, Chris, without asking you about the overhanging question with this fight, which is the title shot. I'm sure you saw, after Michael Bisping had his fight with Dan Henderson, he's now kind of named you as the de facto guy. If you beat Joel Romero, you're the guy he wants to fight. I know Bisping doesn't control the matchmaking. Obviously, it's still going to lay up to the UFC. But what are your thoughts on hearing him say that, knowing that Rockhold is fighting Jacare and not taking nothing away from them? But it seems like Bisping is kind of zeroed in on you as the guy he wants to fight.
Well, he did control the matchmaking for his last fight. He had the fight he wanted, which was good for him. Even though I thought he lost that fight. I think I'm so focused on Yoel that I'm not worried about Bisping. Bisping will be there. Me and him have been going back and forth for years now. Not really back and forth. He's always kind of just crapped on me in my career. He was always just jealous of me and everything I've accomplished. And I came up quick, and he was just a guy who never fought for the title, but had a ton of fights in the division. And I felt there was definitely some saltiness and bitterness on his part. And then when he won the championship, I'm saying, I thought it was embarrassing. All of a sudden, I have Michael Bisping as champion. And then from that, we've been going back and forth. But, yeah, I beat Yoel. I get Bisping. It's an easy day. I expect he's a tough guy. He showed he's tough, without a doubt. But it might be one of my easiest fights I had in years.
Yeah.
I get that fight with Bisping.
Yeah. When you watched the fight with Dan Henderson, obviously you said you scored Dan winning the fight. Were you surprised that it was that close as it was? I mean, I love Dan Henderson, man. I think Dan's a legend, but obviously there's no mistaking the fact that, he's 46 now. He's, 6 years past the last time they fought. And listen, there's a lot of fact you can't deny, what was going into that fight. Were you surprised it was as close as it was?
Yeah. I mean, I love Dan Henderson, just like you said, legend of the sport. And I thought he still had the same chances with his right hand. But I thought Bisping would have been a little bit better at not getting hit by that, knowing that's like the only thing he really had to worry about. And I thought Dan, obviously being 46 years old, I thought time would end up wearing him down, and Bisping would kind of grind him out. And I thought the fight would end up looking easy for Bisping if he wasn't to get knocked out like in the first round. And I thought he won. I thought Henderson won the rounds 1, 2, and 5. And so it was amazing to watch a 46-year-old do that to the champion.
Yeah.
So it was definitely surprised me. I did not expect that.
Yeah. This sounds like almost an insulting question to Dan, because it's not. I think Dan put on a phenomenal performance. But out of the 4 guys fighting coming up, yourself, Yoel Romero, Jacare, and Luke Rockhold, again, that's kind of like the mini tournament going on here. Do you see Bisping beating any of you 4 for the title? Do you think his title reign is one and done at this point?
Yeah, I don't see him beating anybody, any of those 4. I mean, but I didn't see him beating Luke, and he proved me wrong with that. I mean, he's dangerous. This is MMA. You have to take these guys serious in there. But odds would definitely be against him, without a doubt. That's being as nice as possible. He would be a heavy underdog, I think, to any of us.
Yeah. Now, with that said, as you said, your focus is Joel Romero, but knowing that, there's no specific answer. Dana or no one has come out and said, you win, you get a title shot. We know we can't we can't ignore Luke fighting Jacare a couple weeks later. So I'm kind of curious, is there an extra statement or an extra exclamation point you want to put on a fight like this just to separate yourself from the pack? Because, like I said, I mean, that's how the sport works. We know that, if Luke and Jacare have a razor-close split decision and you go out and knock out Yoel Romero, chances are you're going to get the title shot because obviously you were more impressive. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah. Without a doubt, this fight, it definitely, I want to definitely end it with an exclamation point and a finish. An exciting finish. Being my first fight in New York in front of all, fans and everybody who haven't been able to see me live. get to see me for the first time, and I wanna put on an exciting finish.
Yeah. Now, I remember having this conversation with Rich Franklin when he was fighting in Cincinnati, and he was telling me that, it's a different animal when you're fighting at home. Everyone wants to do it, but once you're there, it is a different animal. People asking you for tickets and just knowing the pressure of, your friends and family sitting in the front row, all these different things. How have you been handling that? Because this is not like just you're fighting in your hometown. Like, oh, wow, this is cool. I'm fighting in my hometown. This is historic. I mean, you fought. You were in Albany how many times trying to get the sport legalized? I mean, you were literally you were one of the people at the forefront because you're from New York. I mean, how do you handle all this knowing that it's all kind of coming to this moment November 12th?
Just definitely trying to take it all in and not let it become too big of a moment. At the end of the day, it's me and another guy inside of a cage, which I'm used to. Just like almost like another day of sparring with smaller gloves and some more people watching. That's I try to minimize it in my head that way, and then taking the excitement from the crowd and the experience, just so I could be able to remember it one day. But other than that, just not make it more than it really is. Me and another guy getting in that cage.
Yeah. Now, I know you always traditionally have the same walkout song, Tom Petty, which is kind of like your signature, but you are fighting in New York. There's a lot of famous people from New York. Is there any chance you're switching it up for a New York song, or are you sticking with the old favorite?
That's a great question, and I have a surprise. There'll be a little bit of a surprise for everybody coming up.
I like it. I was thinking about that, man. There's got to be a little bit of a New York thing going on. I was talking to Frankie Edgar. He's already got Biggie, so he already kind of had that locked down.
Which one does he have? Juicy?
No, he has the what is it? Oh God, it just completely drew a blank. It's the one he always walks out to, but it's not Juicy. It's a different one. But yeah, he always walks out to Biggie, so he had that one covered ahead of time. So.
I made sure I gave my the song to my manager and everybody like last week, and I said make sure this gets in, no one steals it. And actually I'm making a text now to find out about that because I want to make sure that got approved.
I like it. Before I get you out of here, Chris, I am curious. You are part of the team now, working with Mark Henry, working with those guys, obviously in addition to Ray Longo and the guys you always work with. A lot of you guys fighting on the same card. I know Frankie's fighting on the card. Obviously, Eddie Alvarez in the main event. I mean, how big is this night for you and your team and in general, just because all you guys are fighting on the same card?
Oh, man, it's crazy. Big. I mean, Mark Henry's pretty much in everybody's corner on the whole card. So, it's really going to be fun to be with those guys, my East Coast guys, Frankie, Eddie Alvarez, Katie. Is Katie, right? Her name is?
Yeah.
Katie Chukigan, right? But it's also like these guys are like my Frankie. I've been with for I've known Frankie forever. I've always been a huge fan of his and training with him at Henzo's, and now we got really close since I started working with Mark, and same thing with everybody else. But it's also, I feel bad. I wish we had some more Cerro Longo guys on the card. Ali Quinta, Aljamain Sterling, John Vellante. But, it's going to be one of those things where it ends up, this card will pass, and soon they will have their time, and hopefully we will get to fight together on a New York card moving forward.
Yeah, I know Aljamain got booked for Albany and some other stuff. Like I said, I know I talked about this the last time. I'm still bummed about Al, man. That's the one that really bums me out because, like I said, I know he really wanted to be on this card, and it just bums me out he's not going to be a part of it.
Yeah, me too, man. That kid's a stud, and I know New Yorkers would love to watch him fight. So
hopefully one day, right? Hopefully one day.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, Chris, I appreciate the time as always, buddy. Enjoy the rest of training camp, man. And like I said, enjoy the drive to your next fight. It's got to be nice to hear that, right? You just get to drive to your next fight.
Yes, I know. It is crazy.
I love it. Well, Chris,
nice.
I appreciate the time, buddy. I'll see you in New York in a couple weeks.
All right, man. I'll see you then.
All right, talk to you soon,
buddy.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Here's a question for you. Have you ever lost or thought you lost your phone? I mean, how terrible was that? Even if you found it in like 5 minutes. If you're like me, your life is on that phone. Well, guess what? Identity thieves know that too. And when you lost your phone and it winds up in the hands of an identity thief, it can be the beginning of a disaster, financially, emotionally, and even physically that could take years to unwind. That's why you should protect yourself with Identity Guard. With Identity Guard, you get protection from the company that's been in this business for over 20 years. one that's helped protect more than 47 million people. Identity Guard continuously monitors millions of transactions and articles and sends you all the news, tools, and guidance you need to minimize your risk. Plus, if you were to become a victim of identity theft, Identity Guard's victim recovery specialist will be there to help you through the recovery process. Identity Guard even offers identity theft insurance with coverage up to $1 million. So get the identity theft protection service that's right for you. Visit Identity Guard at identityguard.com/podcast. As always, good to catch up with the former champ Chris Weidman. I'm really looking forward to that fight with Yoel Romero. We got those two big middleweight fights coming up in the next couple of months. Well, technically all in the same month. Chris Weidman takes on Yoel Romero, and Luke Rockhold takes on Jacare Souza. The most impressive winner, you have to imagine, will be the next opponent for Michael Bisping now that he's not fighting George St. Pierre at UFC 206. I know Bisping still, hope to fight on 206. He even called out Nick Diaz, but if you follow Nick Diaz on Snapchat, you probably realize he ain't fighting nobody anytime soon. That dude is partying in Vegas like nobody's business. I don't know if he's going to worry too much about fighting anybody right now, except maybe fighting to get a better bottle of vodka. But I don't think he's really listening to offers right now. I mean, anything's possible. Money talks, and if they offer him enough, I'm sure he would take that fight. I mean, middleweight title shot after not winning a fight in 5 years. I'm quite sure Nick Diaz would be interested. Whether or not it'll happen, I'm very skeptical about. But obviously, very much looking forward to Weidman's matchup with Yoel Romero. That's a great fight and a great matchup for that card. UFC 205 in general is just a sick card. We're going to be previewing that card extensively next week. As I get ready to roll into New York, we're going to be talking to the champ. Eddie Alvarez will be on the show, as well as the former lightweight champion Frankie Edgar will be joining us to talk to us about his fight with Jeremy Stephens. Of course, the champ Eddie Alvarez takes on Conor McGregor in the main event. Cannot wait for that. Right now, we're going to get ready to talk to Tony Ferguson. He has a big fight coming up this weekend. That card, the card that's coming up this weekend in Mexico City, it slipped under the radar, and for understandable reasons. I mean, it's the card right before UFC 205. New York is going to be the kind of the bulk of the conversation for pretty much everybody, over the next, 2 weeks, because it's such a monstrous card. But this card in Mexico City is better than what you might imagine. I mean, you got Tony Ferguson against Javier Dos Anjos in the main event. That's a phenomenal main event. I mean, that is a great fight. Number 2 versus number 3. That is an awesome, awesome main event. You got Marcin Held making his debut, former Bellator fighter, making his debut against Diego Sanchez. You got Ricardo Lamas fighting on the card against Charles Oliveira. That was a late addition, but that's a great fight. I really look forward to that, and it's kind of strange with those two guys, both being in the featherweight division as long as they have. They've never fought, so this is a great fight. You got Beneil Dariush returning on this card. I mean, this is a really, really underrated card. Main card especially. The undercard, obviously Sam Alvey's fighting on the card against Alex Nicholson, who isn't the most popular guy in the UFC these days. I really like this fight. I really like this card, and it's slipping under the radar. This Dos Anjos Ferguson fight is interesting on a lot of levels because both guys have gone under dramatic changes since their most recent fights. For Tony Ferguson, he has kind of upped and moved his camp a little bit after the fight with Lando Venata, which was, a bit of a shocking performance, a great performance for Lando Venata, and eventually a great win for Tony, but a very scary win for Tony because obviously, he had to go through nearly being finished before he came back and won that fight by submission. But for this camp, he moved up to Big Bear in California, 8,000 feet elevation, and, kind of opened his own training camp and kind of built his own training camp. We'll talk to him about that in the interview. But it's interesting, not to say he wasn't training with good guys, but he's basically been serving as his own coach. Now, Tony's a pretty self-motivated guy. I know that. I don't think anyone's got to tell Tony Ferguson to get up in the morning and go train or to hit pads or to condition, whatever it is he's doing. I'm sure Tony Ferguson is a disciplined enough guy to do it. But I'm always a little worried when you don't have that head coach there, not necessarily telling you what to do, but just teaching you to make sure you're, doing things with the right technique. If you're, I talk to Mark Henry, not often, but I talk to Mark Henry, every now and again, the coach for Eddie Alvarez and Frankie Edgar and those guys. And that guy's just a tireless, what's the word I'm looking for? Educator, I guess the best way I'm looking for as a coach. I mean, he's breaking down video. He's teaching his fighters what they need to look for, what they need to, what they need to focus on, making sure their footwork is the right way, making sure their hands are the right way, making sure they're hitting their combinations in the right way. He's just a student of the game, and he adds an extra level, an extra layer to his fighters. I think when you look at what Frankie Edgar has improved under him, what Eddie Alvarez has improved under him, what Edson Barbosa has improved under him. I think it, kind of speaks volumes for coaching. And, listen, I don't have to speak, praises about guys like, Greg Jackson, or when you look at the coaching staff down at American Top Team, or you look at, Javier Mendez and the guys out at American Kickboxing Academy. I mean, the list goes on. Robert Fallis out at Extreme Couture. I mean, the list goes on. And there is a benefit to having a great head coach, a guy or a girl who is going to, not necessarily, it's not about, telling you what to do. It's just about instructing you in the right way, making sure you're staying on point. And when you kind of go away from that, I always worry a little bit because, listen, some people are self-motivated. I get it. And they're self-taught, and that's awesome. And Tony Ferguson is an amazing athlete, but I always worry a little bit when you go away from that. And you can say the same thing about Rafael dos Anjos going in this fight, because I had learned, and I didn't even know this leading into the fight, that he wasn't training at King's MMA for this fight under Master Rafael Cordero, who had been his coach for his last several fights, kind of leading him into the title and kind of leading him through this streak as he, rose up the ranks at lightweight and eventually became champion. That worries me a little bit because, listen, the results were there. He had a lot of positive results under Rafael Cordero, and I always wonder, listen, a loss is devastating. It sucks to lose, but that doesn't necessarily mean you need to reinvent yourself. There are guys who outgrow gyms or girls who outgrow gyms. I get that. I think in a lot of ways, Ronda Rousey, to go back to my first subject this episode, Ronda Rousey has outgrown Edmund. She probably outgrew Edmund Tarverdian, 3 days into training with him, but she outgrew him a long time ago. And I think Ronda, to get better, would need to train with a different trainer. I think she would be even better, as good as she's been. And she's been amazing. And listen, I understand she lost to Holly Holm, but she's been an amazing fighter. You can't take that away from her. If she had been under the tutelage of a Greg Jackson or a Javier Mendez or another head coach that really would have, kind of turned her into a complete mixed martial artist, I think she'd be even better than she was. I think she won in spite of Edmund. Not to say Edmund didn't help her, but I think that she won because she's such a naturally talented athlete and an amazing fighter that she would have been good with me as her coach, okay? I don't think it mattered who was her coach, okay? She was that good. But I think coaching is important, and so you hear about these changes going to the main event, it makes me wonder. My original pick for this fight was Dos Anjos. I thought Dos Anjos would get it done. I thought, man, he's such a dangerous guy on the ground. He's so good on the feet. He's kind of got it all, but man, I tell you what, I'm leaning towards Tony Ferguson in this fight now. I think even though he has switched things up a little bit with his training and, maybe not having the coaching staff he had before, those little things that do kind of worry me a little bit, I think he does have a lot of confidence. I think he got his scare out of the way with that Lando Venata fight, because I think Lando Venata, kind of shocked him back into reality that, it can all go away in an instant. A guy on a week's notice can take away everything you've worked for the past 8 fights or 7 fights, whatever it was, 8-fight win streak. I think he got his scare out of the way, and now Tony is out there to really go out there and dominate and look for a big win. He trained at altitude. He got ready for the Mexico City altitude, which, let's not kid ourselves, that was a huge factor in Mexico City. I mean, we saw guys who have never really had cardio issues, like Gilbert Melendez and Eddie Alvarez had cardio issues there, and both of those guys have been 5-round warriors for most of their careers, and that zapped them. So I think both of those guys, preparing for Mexico City is going to be a big deal, especially because I do believe this fight will dip into the 3rd, maybe even the 4th round, depending on how things play out early. But I like Tony to win this fight. It's a tough fight to pick, though, because it depends on how Dos Anjos comes back from that loss to Eddie Alvarez and how he's adjusted to life outside of his old training camp. But I'm leaning Tony Ferguson on this one. Another fight that I'm actually kind of surprised that the odds are what they are is the Marcin Held-Diego Sanchez fight. Marcin Held is a pretty heavy favorite going into this fight, and that surprises me because Marcin Held is a very respectable lightweight, man. He's a good lightweight. He had some big wins in Bellator. Submission specialist. Everyone knows he's a leg lock specialist, heel hooks, toe holds, and he's got some nasty leg locks. But, Diego Sanchez has never been finished by submission. Now, of course, Diego had never been finished by knockout either, technically. I mean, yes, he got TKO'd by BJ Penn, but that was due to a doctor stoppage, not actually getting TKO'd. He got TKO'd by Joe Lozon for the first time ever back at UFC 200. So you can never predict, based solely on what they've done before, what they're going to do in this particular fight. But Diego Sanchez is a very good grappler. Is he as good as a grappler as a Damian Maia or a Jacare Souza? Of course not. But no one else is except maybe those two guys. But Marcin Held is a high-level grappler, but I just think with Diego's wrestling and his speed and the way he's able to control, kind of overly aggressively control an opponent, and especially a guy who's making his UFC debut, in a co-main event situation, that's not easy. And for that situation alone, I'm if I was going to pick an upset on this card, I would pick Diego Sanchez. A little shocking that he's such an underdog. And I love this fight between Ricardo Lamas and Charles Oliveira. I think this is a fight that really could go either way, but I like Charles Oliveira if he wins early. Charles Oliveira comes storming out of the gate almost every single time, which was kind of surprising he didn't do as well in the Anthony Pettis fight. I think he was a little nervous, and I think he was a little reserved against a big name like Pettis, and he didn't fight to his strengths in that fight, and he wasn't able to take advantage early. Charles is a fast starter. He comes out of the gate really, really quickly, and I think he needs to do that against Ricardo Lamas for a couple reasons. One, because that's when he's at his best. When he's on the attack, and he's looking for things early, whether we're talking about a submission or a big knee or, whatever it is. Charles Oliveira is a great first-round fighter. The other problem, as I already mentioned, is the altitude. Charles Oliveira goes through a brutal weight cut to get down to 145 pounds. This fight was also taken on a little shorter notice. This fight just came together within the last couple of weeks, so it's not like he was in training and preparing for a fight in November and he just happened to get Ricardo Lamas. So the weight cut and the altitude, I think once this fight goes past the first round, the less and less chance Charles Oliveira has to win it. And I think Ricardo Lamas, with his wrestling background, and also because he was training for a fight, he was supposed to fight BJ Penn, just a week or so ago. I think that, he's going to be ready for this fight. And I like Ricardo Lamas to win this one, but I think he's going to have to take it deep. He's going to have to fight through a tough first round. He's going to have to control Oliveira, put him on the ground, hurt him, avoid those submissions, and then wear him out. Once it gets deep into the second, we're talking minute and a half into the second round, and we can start to see those big, deep, heavy breaths coming from Charles Oliveira. I think that is where we're going to see the best come out of Ricardo Lamas. Also, another fight I love on this card, a debuting fighter out of Invicta. If you haven't seen her fight, get ready to watch who could be a superstar in the near future. Alexa Grasso makes her debut against Heather Jo Clark. Not an easy fight. Heather Jo Clark, underrated. Obviously a very tough veteran fighter who's been around, Ultimate Fighter veteran, and has fought some very good fights in the UFC. But Alexa Grasso seems like the kind of fighter who could be a star in the UFC if she can come out of the gate and get a big win here. She's very exciting, great groundwork, nasty knockout power, right hand that she follows behind her punches and ends in combination with a big right hand. Very dangerous fighter. I like her very much, and I really look forward to that one. Like I said, underrated card, but very, very good card coming up this Saturday night, live and free on Fox Sports 1. All right, right now let's talk to the man who will fight in the main event of that card, Tony Ferguson. He had some interesting things to say about his standing in the division, why a lot of the other lightweights aren't calling him out, and obviously his new training camp up in Big Bear. So let's talk to Tony Ferguson right now. Tony, what's up, buddy? How are you?
Doing good, man. Just getting acclimated here in Mexico City. How about you?
Oh, I'm good, man. I appreciate you taking the time to chat with me as always. I heard you've been stowed away up in the mountains up in Big Bear.
Yeah, I've been wrestling bears and coyotes and wildcats and snow leopards and everything you can name, man. I've been up there hanging out with my other family, man.
I love it.
Probably could have ever did for myself.
I love it. What I know you kind of set this up on your own, doing the thing in Big Bear. I mean, how did that whole thing come about? Was it just a matter of, dealing with the altitude of Mexico City? Was it just kind of changing things up for training? What was the kind of reason behind all that?
Well, because I wanted to open up my academy, and I opened up my private facility. I built it from the ground up with my cage. I had a floating mat, and, a bag stand. I had everything I absolutely needed that I built out there. I built it with my bare hands. And I did it for a reason, because the quality and the work and the effort that I put into, looking for a place to be able to house everything and then house my team and to get my shit together, dude, I had to take myself out of the scene. I had to really take myself and look at myself and say, look, my last fight I was playing bodybuilding and remodeling my house, and it translated right to my fight. I didn't really give a shit, dude. The opponent changed a couple times, and the tempo speed was different. But this fight was different. You can get hurt in this sport, man. And I'm not even close to trying to be like that with this dude. This guy's seen me train and watched me like a hawk over at Ring Training Center. And we're right there in town at OC. And that's my town. California's my city. That's my home. And when I went to Big Bear, it was probably the best thing I could have ever did for myself. Now, training at 8,000 feet and living at 8,000 feet, every single day, man, I would wake up and run, and people, if they didn't want to go running with me and they were sleeping, I woke my ass up. I didn't have nobody fucking holding my hand. I had no strength and conditioning coach out there to do this shit. That was me, trusting my drills in my own academy and people that I brought in there to help me on my way to succeed to victory. And what I did up there is going to be talked about for a long time. So a very long time, G.
I love it. I love it. So going into the fight with Dos Anjos, it sounds like you are 100% healthy, mind, body, and spirit is ready for this fight.
I'm always that way. You know, I never fight with a chip on my shoulder. I never fight angry. I take great pride in this sport, you know, to be able to entertain, not just for myself, but for the whole entire world and my family. And not even in that order, because honestly, I have fun in the sport, and I love it. Once I stop having the love in the sport, I'm going to stop. I don't need this. And that's my kind of passion that I have for it. You know, all these talks with the title and the big money fights, I'm like, man, I never got into this fight for the money. I got in this because I want to be the world's best. The money's just a bonus. I have no problem going back and being a blue-collar or white-collar worker the way I used to. I used to go to school, man. I'm very educated. You know, once I'm all done with this, I'll be a celebrity contractor. You know, I'm very good with my hands. I'm very good mentally. And really, ultimately, I love what I do. I love the way that my kid watches me when I'm hitting the bag or when I'm sparring and stuff. I want to keep that same look going on when my wife is looking at me the same way and my teammates are looking at me the same way. You know, like doing the unordinary, the extraordinary, and going out there and translating it and giving these dudes not just hope, but the spirit and the will to grind themselves. That's what I do. I fight for everybody. I'm a fighter's fighter and the people's champ. I run the streets out there in California, dude, and I see these guys that are homeless on the street. And I remember back in the day when I didn't have shit. I never collected welfare checks. I didn't have to because I worked for my shit. You know, I'm a different kind of animal, and I don't think these guys are ready for me. I'm in focus. I'm acclimated. I'm not pissed off. I'm just focused, man.
Yeah.
I think what they're good for me is what I did was I found peace. I found peace, and that's a very dangerous thing for me, for everybody else. Because when I'm peace of mind and peace of heart, soul, mind, body, I'm dangerous. And come November 5th on Fox Sports 1, RDA's going to get it, dude. No animosity toward the fella. But this is business. You're going to get finished.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. I'm curious, Tony, you know, because obviously we've talked, you know, I mean, I think before and probably after every single one of these wins you've had in this recent win streak you've been on, and you've been gunning for the top of the division. And you told me 3-4 fights ago, you said these guys just aren't ready. They're going to see. They're going to find out. And you've been on this streak. When you got the call and they said you were getting Rafael Dos Anjos, former champion, this is a guy you were gunning for because obviously he had the title. Now, you know, obviously he's lost the title since then, but, you know, what did you think? I mean, this seemed like kind of like the perfect matchup for the timing if you weren't going to get the title shot, which I know is the ultimate goal, but if you weren't getting the title shot, this seemed like the next best thing.
You know, if the title does come, it does. I'm not really worried about it. Those bitches can keep fighting over that belt. I have a belt on right now, man. It fits perfectly. I have no problem taking their time and taking care of these guys. You don't hear McNugget saying my name. You don't hear Alvarez saying my name. And you try to have Khabib trying to surpass me and getting a fake belt from his country. This is what I'm about, man. I'm the real deal. And RDA is number 2. I'm number 3 in the world. And, you know, I'm no bullshit, dude. These guys don't want to fight me. They don't want to fight or have a rematch. I'm a scary motherfucker when I'm inside that cage, man. And you can't prepare for somebody like me because I'm the one that's running sprints at night. I'm out there in Big Bear doing what I have to do, acclimating, building my ship on my hand, not having really a head coach to oversee all of my training. I have to trust in myself, my training, and bring the right guys for my team to get me on my way to victory. And that's exactly what I did out there. And I'm going to translate that same shit because I left no screw unscrewed and I left no seam unseen. Everything was to perfection. Perfect practice makes perfect. And if I would have listened to anybody on the way, that would have said, no, just do this or go this route. When I follow my own intuition and my family or anybody that I trust, I wouldn't be here. So as far as the media and everybody, they want title fight. Yeah, I get that. I think everybody wants me to have that belt more than I do. But I've never been one to follow what everybody else is doing. My coach Hans Joseph Janet, back in the house when I was in the Ultimate Fighter, when I won that season, I knocked everybody out. He said, if you're doing your own thing, Tony, you're probably doing. And I've been doing that the whole entire way. And my skills are top notch. My conditioning is more than top notch. And I know how to win, no matter what. I make everybody take nickels when they hit my jab.
It's funny you say that people want you to have the title. People want you to have the title more than you're talking about. And I think that when you talk about being at peace and being at calm, going into this, and that's a dangerous guy. I do hear that in your voice because obviously you do hear the guys out there who are complaining about why did Conor get the shot and why is this guy getting the shot? It sounds like you're just focused on doing you. Like you're going to get there.
It's not like a bunch of whiny bitches, straight up. Like honestly. Like McNuggets over there and Alvarez, I hope they knock each other out. The only legit fighters that I really faced were Josh Thompson and Edson Barbosa. Like literally. They gave me the fight that I needed. And I can only hope that these top three give me what I need. Because I'm skill building. And each and every fight I get better and better. And like I say, like you say, I found my peace. And all you guys that want to keep arguing over the belt, the focus is gone. RDA's focus is on that belt, trying to get there, get back to that spot, right? Doing this, doing that. I'm over it, bro. Like, if I wanted that belt, I would have already had the belt. I would have talked my way there. But I'm classy. I've seen fans turn against me. I've seen fans, the same fans, text me. And they're like, oh, good job. I'm like, shit, where the fuck were you? Now all of a sudden, when I'm on a win streak? Seriously? And even the people that used to interview me, or the ones that give me like that shit enemy stick, like Luke Thomas from SB Nation. Give me a shit ass blog, you trying to do my friend, and like the next day, turn his back on me. I'm tired of it. I'm over it, bro. I don't fight for anybody. Only people that I fight for, I'm a fighter's fighter. I'm a people's champ. I fight for those people that are on the streets that are trying to make it and succeed in society. I'm here trying to give not people hope, but that spirit to go out there and grind it and do it themselves because they see me doing it every fucking day. I don't have to post pictures of my sponsors because my sponsors know I'm legit. And they're the ones that take care of me. The ones that I had when my arm was broken, everybody turned their back on me. I don't fight with a chip on my shoulder. I found my peace. But I'll say my thing just because I'm an entertainer. And come November 5th, like I said, my hand will be victory.
Real quick before I get you out of here, Tony, I am kind of curious. I know the kind of study, I know the kind of work you put in. I remember having that conversation with you. I can't remember what fight it was before one of the fights where you're talking about the mental preparation, the notes you take, getting ready for a fight. So I am kind of curious, what you expect out of Rafael dos Anjos and what kind of a performance, because it sounds like you're ready to go out there and just absolutely dominate. It sounds, you're getting me pumped up just thinking about it because I love this fight so much.
You know what? RDA is a nice guy. Our families met each other in preparation when he was trying to get ready for Anthony Pettis. He asked me, he texted me. The dude was following me on Twitter and Periscope and liking my shit. It was weird. But I had to think, man, if I'm creating fans in my own division, I'm doing the right thing. And with RDA, no animosity, but this is business. We're going to get finished. And I've done my preparation. His focus is on the belt. Mine is on him. My punches are solid. My conditioning is amazing. I can't wait to just get in there and put on a show, man. This fight needs to be on pay-per-view. But I'm glad because the people that can't afford pay-per-view, they're going to be the ones that are going to be watching this on free TV. And it's going to be posted all over the world. That's the best. I'm not bitching about money. These little dudes need to get it through their head, man, that the fight game is much more than what they think. And I'm here to bring it back.
I love it. Well, Tony, I can't wait. I always love seeing you perform, man. You're in the right spot where you belong, main event. Obviously, I look forward to that. And, man, enjoy Mexico City. Cannot wait for the fight next weekend, man. And I appreciate you taking the time to chat with me as always.
Thank you, homie.
All right. A big thank you once again to Tony Ferguson. He fights in the main event this Saturday night. on Fox Sports 1 against Rafael dos Anjos. Phenomenal card, as I've said, all episode long. Also want to say a big thank you, of course, to Chris Weidman for stopping by the show. Former middleweight champion takes on Yoel Romero next weekend at UFC 205. I will be in New York next week. I get in on Tuesday. Going to be an interesting day, election day, flying into New York. That'll be a lot of fun. And then the festivities kick off on Wednesday with the open workouts. I'll be there asking questions and shooting some video, actually, which will be kind of fun. So I'll be shooting some videos with the fighters at the open workouts. And then we have media day directly following that with pretty much everybody else on the card. I believe the open workouts will have the three main events, the three title fights, Conor, Eddie, Wonder Boy, and Woodley, and of course Joanna and Carolina. And then the media day will have pretty much everybody else because this card is stacked from top to bottom. So look forward to some videos and some interviews coming from that. Obviously, we will have a show next week. I'm going to record it before I leave for New York. So I'm going to be talking to the champ, Eddie Alvarez, as well as the former champ, Frankie Edgar, who will be joining us on the show. So make sure you tune in for that, as well as a bit of a preview of my picks and predictions for UFC 205. As I said, always want to say a big thank you to everyone that tunes in each and every week to listen to the Fight Society podcast. Make sure you check us out on iTunes or on SoundCloud. Make sure you follow me on Twitter at Damon Martin, and we will see you guys in 1 week's time previewing UFC 205 from New York. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you then.